You wake up early. You check your phone before your feet even touch the floor. You navigate the heavy traffic, spend 8 hours sitting under fluorescent lights, and return home too exhausted to pursue the things you truly love. Instead, you collapse onto the soft couch, numb your tired mind with a glowing screen, and prepare to do it all over again the very next morning. Does this endless cycle feel familiar to you? You are certainly not alone. We live in a strange era of unprecedented convenience. We possess more physical comfort, faster technology, and more material wealth than any generation before us. Yet, a thick, invisible cloud of chronic exhaustion seems to hang heavily over our daily human existence. We are physically safe, but we are spiritually drained to the core. We work tirelessly to buy things we barely have the time to actually use, mostly trying to impress people we barely even know. Over a century and a half ago, a profound thinker noticed this exact same tragic pattern. He observed his town neighbors working themselves into the ground, heavily burdened by farm mortgages, rigid social expectations, and the relentless pursuit of more property. He summarized this sad human condition with a painfully accurate phrase: the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. That thinker was the American philosopher Henry David Thoreau. He clearly recognized that we were slowly becoming the blind tools of our own tools. We were eagerly trading the irreplaceable hours of our only life for material possessions that brought us absolutely no lasting joy. Tonight, we will pause this relentless treadmill. We will step away from the loud noise of the modern digital world and explore profound, quiet wisdom from the deep woods. This is not just a simple book review. It is a gentle invitation to reclaim your time, your focus, and the deliberate direction of your precious life. In the deep, warm summer of 1845, Henry David Thoreau made a truly radical decision. He did not just sit at a desk and write abstractly about simplicity. He put it into absolute, physical practice. He borrowed a sharp steel axe, walked deliberately into the quiet woods near Concord, Massachusetts, and single-handedly built a small, humble cabin on the peaceful shores of Walden Pond. The land belonged to his good friend, the fellow philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson. Thoreau did not retreat to the dense woods as a bitter hermit fleeing society. He explicitly and clearly stated his primary purpose. He went to the woods because he wished to live deliberately. He wanted to front only the essential, bare facts of life and see if he could not learn what it had to gently teach him. He spent exactly 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days residing in that small wooden cabin. He grew his own green beans, baked his own simple bread, and spent quiet hours observing the slow, beautiful melting of the winter ice. This profound social and personal experiment came his undeniable masterpiece, simply titled Walden. Published finally in 1854, the brilliant book is part personal memoir, part deep philosophical treatise, and part sharp social critique. At the precise time of its publication, America was undergoing the rapid, chaotic acceleration of the Industrial Revolution. Heavy steel railroads were violently cutting through the pristine natural landscape. New telegraph wires were suddenly connecting distant, isolated cities. The entire Western world was completely obsessed with raw speed, mass production, and endless economic expansion. Yet, sitting quietly beside the still, reflecting waters of the pond, Thoreau viewed this frantic modernization with very deep skepticism. He asked a piercing question that remains shockingly relevant to our lives today. If we are genuinely saving so much time with all these new technological inventions, why do we feel like we have less free time than ever before? Deeply realized that true human wealth was not measured by the endless accumulation of expensive property. It was solely measured by the accumulation of quiet, uninterrupted time to deeply experience the simple beauty of existence. Within the quiet pages of Walden, Thoreau offers us 3 profound insights that have the unique power to fundamentally alter our rigid daily perspective. The very first insight completely redefines how we measure human cost. Thoreau wrote that the cost of a thing is the amount of what he called life, which is required to be exchanged for it, immediately or in the long run. Let us pause and think deeply about that single sentence. When you buy a brand new, expensive car, you are not just paying $50,000 from a bank account. You are actively handing over 2 entire years of your working life to pay for that heavy steel machine. You are literally trading your irreplaceable youth, your precious daily energy, and your very brief time on Earth for a piece of rapidly depreciating status. Thoreau deeply challenges us to look closely at every single purchase and ask, is this inanimate object truly worth the amount of my actual, breathing life I am surrendering to possess it? Suddenly, the frantic pursuit of endless luxury begins to look like a very poor exchange rate toward human happiness. And then second Coy addresses our dangerous modern obsession with constant communication and loud, endless information. Thoreau actually lived to observe the installation of the very first national telegraph wires. He famously and cynically noted that we are in great haste to construct a magnetic telegraph from Maine to Texas. But Maine and Texas, it may be, have absolutely nothing important to communicate. He perfectly predicted the exhausting, addictive trap of our modern social media feeds. We have miraculously built the most incredible global communication networks in human history, only to spend our precious days endlessly scrolling through trivial gossip, viral anger, and pointless arguments. The technology vastly advanced, but the depth of our human conversation did not. The third insight, perhaps his most famous, concerning the absolute necessity of intentional solitude. He wrote that he never found the companion that was so reliably companionable as solitude. In our loud modern world, being physically alone is almost always confused with being miserably lonely. But Thoreau clearly understood that quiet solitude is the necessary laboratory of the human soul. It is only in the complete absence of external social noise and the heavy opinions of others that we can finally, clearly hear the authentic voice of our own conscience. So, how do we practically apply this 19th century philosophy to our hyper-connected, deeply exhausted 21st century lives? You do not need to abruptly quit your corporate job, sell all your worldly belongings, and immediately run off to live in a dark wooden cabin in the deep forest. Thoreau himself eventually packed his bags and left Walden Pond after 2 years because he felt he had several other lives he still needed to live. The true goal of Walden is not permanent physical isolation from humanity. The ultimate goal is to firmly build an inner cabin of deliberate simplicity within your own busy mind. We must begin by ruthlessly and honestly auditing our daily routines and our surrounding material possessions. Look closely at your digital calendar right now. How many of your weekly commitments are quietly driven by heavy social obligation, rather than a genuine, joyful desire to actually be there? Look closely at your bursting closet. How many expensive items do you own that secretly own you, requiring your constant maintenance, protection, and draining mental bandwidth? And we must fiercely guard and protect our unallocated free time. Practice the increasingly difficult art of intentional, temporary disconnection. Try spending just 1 single hour each evening with your smartphone turned completely, genuinely off. Replace that frantic digital noise with the quiet, deliberate observation of your immediate, physical surroundings. Go for a long walk through your neighborhood without any headphones blaring in your ears. Allow your mind the incredibly rare luxury of sheer boredom, for simple boredom is actually the fertile soil from which deep, original creativity naturally grows. Furthermore, we must radically shift our daily financial perspective. Before you eagerly make your very next major online purchase, pause and perform Thoreau's brutal, honest calculation. Translate that bold price tag directly into the exact number of hours you must painfully labor at your desk to afford it. Ask yourself deeply if renting an hour of your precious, fleeting life is truly worth that specific object arriving in a cardboard box. By intentionally and boldly simplifying our external world, we gently quiet the frantic, whirling anxiety in our exhausted minds. We finally stop blindly following the tired script that a consumer society wrote for us, and we courageously begin holding the pen to write the story for ourselves. As we gently approach the quiet end of our intellectual journey together tonight, I want to leave you with a lingering, powerful thought to genuinely carry with you. At the very end of his masterpiece, Walden, Thoreau writes a single sentence that has beautifully echoed through many generations. Only that day dawns to which we are awake. The sun is but a morning star. What a profoundly beautiful and remarkably sharp psychological realization. The physical sun may rise every single morning without fail, casting its warm golden light over the busy city streets and the quiet suburban neighborhoods. The literal, astronomical dawn happens automatically, regardless of our actions. Whether that massive glowing star illuminates an intentional, meaningful life, or just another numb, exhausted climb on the endless societal hamster wheel, depends entirely on whether you are actually, truly awake to experience it. If you spend your precious, numbered days unconsciously reacting to the loud demands of others, numbing your deep exhaustion with endless digital scrolling, and frantically buying things you do not genuinely need, you are still fast asleep. Even with your two eyes wide open and you do not need to wait for a distant retirement or a quiet cabin in the deep woods to finally begin actively living. Your own personal Walden Pond exists right now, in the very center of your current chaotic life, waiting patiently to be discovered. It is found in the brief, quiet moments of silence between your heavy scheduled meetings. It is found in the deep, intentional breath you take before quickly responding to an angry email. It is found in the courageous, deliberate choice to say a firm no to the trivial things that slowly drain your spirit, and a resounding yes to the quiet things that deeply nourish your tired soul. If tonight's philosophical reflection beautifully offered you a brief moment of peace, or perhaps a new, clearer lens through which to view your daily routine, please consider gently pressing the subscribe and like buttons below. Leave a thoughtful comment sharing exactly what one thing you bravely plan to simplify in your own complex life tomorrow morning. Together, we can slowly build a thoughtful community that deeply values intentional, over-exhausted, blind striving. Take a slow, deep breath right now. Slowly release the heavy, accumulated burdens of today. Rest your tired mind. And we will warmly see you again next week with another profound book that might just change everything.